What's up, everybody? This is MileSplit Live. It is December 3rd.
Back in the studio. Yeah. Sorry, had to do that. I don't know why.
I was depressed I wasn't
with
here.
The first dance of the season in December. Parker back here saying hello, coming back from California this weekend where she saw the CAF Cross Country State Championships.
I did. I saw it all.
You really wanted to see those runners run.
Yeah, I did. I
Woodward.
drove 3 hours just to go see the meet. It was awesome, though. I'm so glad I went.
That's commitment.
Yeah.
Commitment
My dad went too.
Personified.
It is. I ran the course the day before too.
Oh, yeah?
I was going to post something and ask the MileSplit viewers of the MileSplit Instagram how fast I thought I was going to run the course. But then I was really scared of the answers I would get. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this and not advertise.
Do you have the number? Do you know?
No, I didn't time it. I didn't time it.
Oh, she didn't time it, so it doesn't matter.
But give me a guess on what you think I would do. I have a guesstimate in my head.
I'd 26. 26.
Yeah, it's probably a fair guess.
What?
I'll go 25, just to.
Little slower.
Oh,
Okay.
We'll move on then.
Moving on. This is our Nike Cross Nationals preview show.
Woo! We're done with state championships. Finally.
We're done.
Yeah.
No
Except
more
for
wild
we have to
weekends.
recap one.
What are you
Nike.
talking about? No more wild. We got the biggest 2 wild weekends coming up.
This is a wild weekend with
In the West.
one race.
Wild
but
weekends
not
in the West.
Multiple plural races. We're both going to be in Portland for Nike Cross Nationals. We'll also have your favorite, Bobby Reyes from Colorado MileSplit's going to be there giving coverage for MileSplit. Logan Stanley is a freelance correspondent out of California. He's also going to be helping. We're actually even going to have an intern. James Lee of West Torrance High School is going to help us out there and hopefully do some things, take some photos, manage Instagram. But we're going to have a full team out there. So get ready to kind of, run well, and we'll try to keep track of all of it. So before we start, we have obviously, some recapping to do, Parker.
Yes,
There's some big things that happened.
A wild, wild weekend before the wild weekends of the West. But this one was also wild. We have 5 storylines that I think we should touch on quickly before we dive in depth of some stuff that we're going to see at NXN, and then just dive into a little bit about the qualifiers for that going on. But first thing I want to touch on is Abby Vanderkooi. She won Foot Locker West. Give me a rundown of what happened there.
No, she won Foot Locker Midwest. I wrote that wrong,
sorry.
so blame me being the copywriter in that. She won Foot Locker Midwest, which, kind of surprising, Bryan, because Abby Vanderkooi had kind of gone under the radar to end the season. She really hadn't lost any races until maybe one race in September against Taylor Ewert, MSU Spartan, and Zofia Dudek. But she goes into Foot Locker Midwest here and beats both of them. Dudek and Ewert, who are pretty, run really well end of the season, also beat Caitlin Hart. Vanderkooi, 17-17, I think third fastest performance this season for her going into Foot Locker Nationals, really, really strong. And she finished third at Foot Locker Nationals last year. So I think we should be expecting, I tagged it today, Postseason Vanderkooi. She's back. She's ready to go.
I like that Postseason Vanderkooi. That's good.
Yeah.
The Midwest region was an interesting race. That was muddy, wet, sloppy conditions. And Sophia and Taylor and Caitlin all definitely have their eyes on, I think, Nike this weekend, coming the weekend.
Right.
So they're going to race 3 hard efforts in a row. So maybe it was more of a case of hey, let's just kind of run and make it to Portland.
Yeah.
Make it on to San Diego and Portland.
We've been talking about this all week, seeing some of the qualifiers happen this weekend. And it looked more so like kids were just making sure they could get through.
Yeah. That's kind of what my thought was. And for Abby, that was going after a win because she hadn't gotten a national qualifier yet, because obviously she chose not to run at the NXN
earlier this season. Yeah. But she's experienced, definitely ran really, really well end of season last year, and shouldn't be a surprise when she goes to Foot Locker Nationals and potentially will run up with those runners.
Yeah.
Dudek is going to Euro U20s in Portugal, but she will be at Foot Locker Nationals December 14th. So I will be really curious to see those Midwest girls going at it. I think it's going to be a really, really strong race.
Next up, Northeast, Foot Locker Northeast, Patrick Patty Anderson won the whole dang thing.
Yeah, he did.
So what was that about?
Patty. What do you think of Patty, Bryan?
Patty A.
I don't know how he's gonna feel about becoming Patty, but yeah, I think Anderson has had a solid season up to this point. I think this was definitely his first major race to come out and prove what he's worth. Not what he's worth, but
Pennsylvania after
the state meet was, right. But there was no competition there really pushing him. I think this is the first meet where he's had competition. He ran a great speed rating at the state meet, don't get me wrong, 195. But this is the first one where he's really faced off against some of the top guys, and he ran well.
He passed the test.
He passed the test. He ran well. And this is a region where a lot of the guys, I think the Midwest region, a lot of them was advance and qualify. Mm-hmm. And, it's weird because, like, for the Northeast region, I feel like a lot of these guys, it was the same idea, but at the same time, like, many of them are not competing at NXN. Some of them got at-large bids to NXN now, but they're not, because they can't, because it's not the same day. So, like, they know, like, they have to go a little harder because this is, like, the one and done. This is their qualifier. They're choosing to run this race over NXN. Because they're on the same day, so they can't physically qualify for both of those meets. So they really have to go a little harder, I think. And Patrick Anderson proved like he's one of the classes of the field against some top tier talent. Liam Murphy, Gavin Sherry was also in there. Two solid guys right there that he beat. So
yeah, he's from Mount Lebanon High School, which is AAA school in Pennsylvania, but really, like you said, just hasn't really faced like the big guys. He ran well at some great invitationals early this season, but this was his chance. It's interesting to note at Foot Locker Nationals last year, the first Foot Locker Northeast guy to finish was Jack Stanley, finished 7th place. Above him, dominated by Midwest athletes.
That was absolutely crazy.
5 of the top 6 were from the Midwest. So the question, I think, which he'll kind of go into, and maybe he can answer this at Foot Locker Nationals, but can he be a top 3 runner at Foot Locker Nationals from the Northeast? Can he challenge with some of those Midwest guys?
This may be a larger conversation for
later.
Later but the Northeast always seems like they have some dominant talent. And they always ran some fast speed ratings. They always look strong. And then the Midwest comes in and just stomps on them. The past 2 or 3 years, I feel like that's what it's been. So maybe the Northeast, can hopefully have a little bit of a resurgence this year at Foot Locker.
For sure.
Loudoun Valley gals and guys showed up at Anixtar Southeast, in those pretty sick Tin Man Elite jerseys. I don't know if anybody else peeped those.
Yeah.
But
those are pretty cool.
Yeah, they got Tin Man Elite provided them from Loudoun Valley. I think they bought those jerseys for the squads.
Yeah,
so.
They were looking good.
Yeah.
So what does this mean going forward for our weekends out in the Wild West?
I'll start with the girls because I think they continue to move up in the rankings. They're 12 right now after that win going into NXN. And, I mean, when you look at their performance, both time, speed rating, looked really, really good. I think they can get possibly like a top 10 finish, at NXN. They lack a little bit of that upward, point scorer towards 1, but they have a lot of good depth. So they're going to run well, I think, in a pack. It depends on just how they go out, how they're coached, go into that race. Because this was their first win for the girls program at NXR Southeast. Huge monumental step for that girls team. And I think this is the first step of, more steps to come for this program looking forward because Joan and Mark have done a wonderful job with this girls team and the boys team. And I think they're just a team that just is going to be here from going on toward the future.
Yeah, it was 2 falls ago, I think, when I was there for a workout Wednesday, and I just remember them talking, I was obviously there to focus on the guys team because it was after their first NXN national championship, but they're like, hey, we got this up-and-coming girls team, watch out for them. They're trying to get after it. They're trying to become better each day, and I think 2 years ago they were just off, making it to NXN, and this year, obviously, they put the nail in the wood and made it, or nail in the hammer, nail in the coffin. I don't know. Nail in the coffin.
What about the boys?
The boys, they ran strong. They ran well. It's going to be hard for them to beat Great Oak and Newbury Park. They're defending champions, 2-time defending champions. But as we know, the way things played out in California this weekend, it was crazy for them to be. But they look strong. They looked really good. Obviously, the class of that Southeast field, definitely going to be in a battle for a podium finish this year. Not as definitively strong as they have been in the past, but still a very solid squad. And I think because of their experience, with NXN and racing there, we could see them again look for a podium finish.
They're a much different team. They got to answer different questions. I think that they have to lean into that, and they have to own it. So when they go to NXN, I think I want to see that out of them.
Them proving, yeah.
Did you also see their swaggy Instagram team photo for NXN? Did you see this?
Was it the one where they were sitting?
They're wearing
in
like
the
mink
flannels?
coats or something. Somebody's crushing a Coke in the back.
Were they eating? Did I make up? Were they eating pancakes, or was that something
Yeah,
else?
Yeah, that was pancakes.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. That's like one of my favorite parts. High schoolers are just so fun.
I love all the team photos. I put together an article.
Too.
Yeah, check it out. I put together an article with all the team photos, and I think for some reason I keep coming back to the York photo. I don't know what it is. They're all just sitting in like office chairs and like got their coffees kind of like this, and they're just sitting there in the office chairs, and it just looks so funny. They got their green York hats on, but they're all in like business attire, and they look like. It just like makes me crack up. It makes me think of like Dwight from The Office, and it just like I don't know. It's just like an awkward, funny like.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's good.
Wait, guys,
There's a lot
hear
of good
me
ones,
out.
though.
Should we do our own NXN
No,
team photo
we're
in
not.
the studio?
We're not racing. We're not running. We're not going to do
It's
an
so
NXN
fun.
photo.
It is kind of a rite of passage,
It is.
though.
It is.
For, when you qualify, you get to have this
Yeah.
special sort of moment capture. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
Next up, Pennsylvania sweetheart Marlee Starliper beat Sydney Masciarelli. Was this kind of a surprise? Was it not a surprise? What do we think?
Not a surprise in my eyes. But Marlee, I think, at this point, was probably in a better place fitness-wise, I think, to go after Sydney. Sydney, at, what was it, Boston, the Mayor's Cup, was, going through some, like, issues, I think, whether it's sinus or flu or whatever, but she wasn't at 100%. And she didn't really have a big race after that. So Marlee had raced better and against more competition. So I think she just was at a better wavelength heading into the race. And she raced smarter from what I was told. Let Sydney lead first 2 miles of the race and then leaned on that 4:38, 1,600 meter speed toward the end when you have a couple sort of places at Van Cortlandt to go after. I think there's a downhill at one point toward the end, correct? After you're coming off the bridge.
Yeah. You come over the bridge over the expressway and go right down past the dog park.
So
and then
I think
hits the
she kind of like tactically kind of waited, sat on it a little bit, and then just took the win in the last mile from Sydney. Sydney still ran well. I think she was 17,
18. Yep.
18. So it's good, but I mean I think she's got some competition this year for Locker Nationals for sure.
Oh, I would definitely 100% agree. And I think Marlee has had her eyes, obviously, a lot of the girls have had their eyes set on these races, but I know Marlee, obviously, since that workout we did with her in the fall, this is kind of something she's been training for. She's like, the races in between, matter, but don't really matter. Like, I'm going to be
title.
Yeah, a title.
And the last 2 years, she's kind of expected to be top 5, and she's finished 13th in back-to-back years of Foot Locker Nationals. So I think this is one of those years where you really have to,
I think she brings experience.
Validate.
The biggest thing is her experience that she brings into this race. Obviously, multiple time making it to San Diego. She's a senior this year. Not only, I think it's just like the ability, like you said, to be calm and in the moment and control the race how you need to control it. And there's several girls in this class of 2020 seniors that are going to be in these races. Marlee's definitely one of them.
It'll take patience and experience, as you said. And I mean, if you make a mistake, though, it's going to come back to you. So you got to lean on a lot of that experience and that patience.
Yep.
Last but not least, rounding it up with my favorite, CIF State Cross Country Championships. Newbury Park, although they did not race against Great Oak directly, they had the win over it in the final team merge. California, Great Oak was Division 1, Newbury's Division 2. They merge all the divisions together at the end, and that's how they sort of get who they're sending out. Newbury Park had the win over Great Oak, 90-93. What do we think attributed to this win for Newbury Park? Would we have seen it play out differently had they been in the same race?
Go ahead.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. But the biggest thing is this comes down to, again, the difference in the makeup of their team. Newbury Park has that strong, solid 1-2 guys out front, but they don't have as deep of a team as Great Oak. Great Oak has guys, if you look at their speed ratings, 170 or 180s almost all the way through their top 7. That's just almost unheard of. You don't get 2 or 3 180 guys, let alone Great Oak has almost 7 180s guys in the speed ratings. Newbury Park has the 2 top guys, and they have a 170 on their back end at 5th. So if they were in the same race, I don't know how it would have played out, but Newbury Park gets the nod because they did end up finishing higher in the merge, but Newbury Park's 1 through 5 split was 1:09. That can hurt you in a super deep field like NXN. You're getting a lot of guys finishing super fast.
Unless you go 1-2.
But the thing is, if you go 1-2 or if you go even 1-4, 1-5, which they could potentially do. I mean, both their two top guys are very, very strong.
I think there's a legitimate chance to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything against them, but Great Oak has that solid pack with a 16-second spread.
One thing I did see Doug Souls mention on Twitter was that if you do put them in the same race, as you saw in the CIF Southern Section finals, Newbury Park pulled along the entire Division II field in that race, and they were faster as a result.
It was pretty nuts. They opened very quickly. I
Yeah,
think it was
so
like a 2:09 first 800.
If you put Great Oak in that race with Newbury Park,
Yeah.
I think the disparity closes. The parity is different, right? The balance between the Nico and Jace out front and Great Oak in the Division II race.
You're saying that gap of 106
it closes
down
because Great Oak has to run a little bit faster, right? Because
Yeah.
they're in that field. So I think that the result might have ultimately been different if they had been in the race. But a race is a race is a race. So
yeah, and we're gonna find out this weekend,
Right.
because that's where all the chips lie. But it's gonna be interesting. I mean,
I think it'll be very close, for
yeah,
sure.
and we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
I also obviously think something that adds to the gap being so much bigger than Great Oaks too is because Nico's so far ahead of everybody. I mean, we have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
Let's stay on CAF real quick because your girl was out there in Fresno.
It was so awesome. I mean, I just think everything's so cool when you're out on the ground. You get to see it in person. Everything's a little bit more special, in my opinion, just than when I read it over, glance at the results, and then we talk about it later. But I would say my highlight was probably Division I girls race, Buchanan edging out Great Oak. I mean, the top three scores between Buchanan, Great Oak, and then Saugus were all pretty phenomenal. I think it was 67-71, and Saugus scored a 136. But just seeing Corey Smith, she ended up finishing second this year. She missed last year. She won the year before. This year, she was everybody kind of predicted her to win, but she had a great race. I mean, she ran 17 flat, behind
Carly Dorakaskar.
Yeah, at a 16:45. So seeing her across the finish line and then kind of just stand there, she gathered herself, she stood there and she waited, and it was super close. I thought Great Oak had won just seeing all the girls come in because another Buchanan girl came in, and then a ton of Great Oak girls were just piling in, and you're like, wow, they were all so close together. Everybody came in, and then they were all kind of worried. Everybody was like, what's going to happen? And then Buchanan came out with a very tight win. So that was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, they got a deep squad this year.
Yeah.
They moved up to 5 after that win at CAF. And I think, running in a field like NXN, I think they're set up to do really, really well. Great Oak was missing Tori Gaitan, who was not, in the lineup. I think she changes that a little bit, and that could have altered the final score. Saying that, I think Great Oak still is going to have a good handle on NXN. Carly Dorakaskar, man, this year this girl has blown up. It came out of nowhere, really. I mean, she had a good track season, but she flew out of the gate with a U.S. #1 3-mile time early in the season, and then it was the Corey Smith show most of the year. So most people, as you said, thought Corey Smith was going to win this race pretty easily. But to see her go out there, I think it was 16:45 for 5K at Woodward for this girl. Really, really awesome to see because she's really, really shy. Our guy in California, Jeff Parenti, has interviewed her, I think, a couple times now, and she's just very humble, shy, does not want to put the spotlight on herself. So to see her win was really, really cool.
Yeah, she went out pretty modestly, too. She made up a lot of ground on the second mile, closed really hard, so it was an awesome race.
I think Anthony Grover also won in Division 4, maybe. I think
he's Division 4 boys champion.
He might have won. Was it his third straight win in Division 4? I mean, he's been the pride of the Division 4 for a long time in California.
Yeah.
Harper McLean in Division 5 in girls. Also Alexander Close in Division 2 girls. Newbury Park's girls won Division 2 as well.
Which was a little bit of a surprise. St. Francis, the team from California, was supposed to win. And Newbury Park, really, that was awesome. They like Loudoun Valley, sending 2 teams.
And they got an at-large bid as a result of that time, running
sir.
super, super fast. So were you going to add anything else?
Matt Strangier also ran very well. He won
Yeah.
the Division 1 boys race, I want to say it was. And, yeah, it looked good. 14:43. It was the second fastest time of the day behind Nico Young. So definitely watch out for him. He's been around all season. I feel like we kind of not slight him, but we haven't talked about him a lot.
Well, he would have been the talk of California had Nico not had like this incredible, remarkable, extraordinary season.
Running several 200-plus speed-rated races.
Right.
Yeah, and Strangio is up there. I mean, don't count him out as somebody who could contend for a national title, easily. Like, he's been there before. He's done that. He knows what he's doing. He's definitely a guy to watch out for.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, before we start talking about the actual races, what we think might happen this weekend, something I think we should touch base on. I know y'all already wrote an article that is live on the site now about it, but in your opinion, do you think there are any at-large team selections, any teams that got snubbed from getting an at-large team selection for NXN this weekend?
Do you want to start with this?
Yeah, we've kind of talked about it a couple times throughout the past few weeks. I think Franklin still kind of got a little snubbed. They were the Oregon State champions. I want to say it was Class 6A there. Regardless, they were the Oregon State champions, and then they ended up taking third in the region, just missing it. They definitely did not have a great race at the regions, but I think they had a great race at state. I think they would be a team that would add to the field. They'd be really strong. Their speed ratings, I think, were better than El Paso Eastwood, who did make it. And, maybe their resume is a little weak because I don't think they traveled too far outside of their region, is where El Paso Eastwood did go to Woodbridge, and they did go to Desert Twilight. But they finished, I want to say, 6th and 7th at those meets. Again, not their best outing. They've come on super strong towards the end of the year. So I kind of understand that. And then I think also Severna Park, Severna. I keep saying it wrong. Severna Park is comparable to Eastwood speed rating wise. So they maybe got slightly snubbed as well. And I understand you can't take all the teams. You gotta kind of figure out who's running well when it counts. And El Paso Eastwood getting a bid, good for them. They're starting to come on strong.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Franklin didn't run well at the regions, because you look at the overall team average of speed ratings from that event. It's a 176. El Paso Eastwood from NXR South is a 158.8. So region to region, Franklin still ran better than Eastwood. Actually, one of the top speed rated performances of those bottom two, the bottom 5 teams that were considered. Portland Franklin ran a 180 combined team speed rating average at Oregon State Championship, second only behind Dana Hills. Dana Hills had a good season. I think they deserve to get in. That much isn't questioned, but I agree with you. I think Franklin, looking at the results, while they didn't travel, they competed against a lot of teams that were really, really talented. They beat Jesuit once. They finished second to Jesuit by 1 point at Ash Creek early in the season, and then they dominated Jesuit at the Oregon State Championships. And they also beat Camas at Nike Portland, and Camas eventually, won and emerged at the Washington State Championship meet, in according to time. So I think, Franklin, in my mind, I think is just the team that I'm flubbed. I don't know why they didn't get in.
Yeah, I was kind of perplexed by that as well. And I think also Downington West would add to the field a little bit too. They're kind of the same thing as Severna Park.
Yeah.
So, they're kind of in the same boat. I think the big problem with Downington West is they were beaten up a little bit at Manhattan. Those teams from the Northeast region kind of beat up on each other throughout the New England's, throughout Connecticut state championships and things like that. There's a couple Connecticut teams that beat up on each other. So obviously, we are where we're at on the guys' side. But I think it's going to be a strong field regardless.
It'll still be good. It'll still be good. Girls' side, it actually came down to fourth place teams when they were deciding on their fourth at-large bid. And it seems like it came down to Portland Lincoln, which had a really good season, and Cherry Creek High School in Colorado, which finished fourth at NXR Southwest. And end of the day, if everything is even, I think you kind of take the team that you think will do better at NXN, and I think that's what happened here. But it kind of discounts the whole logic behind NXN and the selection procedure, which they have on their site, which they say that they value wins against regional champions or runners up, and Cherry Creek had those at Roy Griak. They beat Edina, and they also beat Naperville North. Now, Cherry Creek wasn't as healthy at the end of the season, which led to a second place performance at Colorado State Championships and a fourth place outing here at NXR Southwest. But even with that, they were still comparable to Portland Lincoln. They have one of the best girls in Riley Stewart that could be an All-American, and it's one of those things. I think Cherry Creek did enough this season to get a bid, but they just weren't given it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Riley Stewart winning, she's already there as an individual. So, I guess maybe from a committee standpoint, it's like, do they need the team? I understand the team adds to it. It's just like an interesting fact. And I think they would have, to be honest, too, because, obviously, like you said, they were banged up. But I think that loss to Arapahoe kind of hurt them at the state.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That definitely is probably one of the things, like, man, they lost to Arapahoe. And yeah. So
they would have been a great underdog story. All right. Shall we dive in? The boys' race. What do we think it's going to take to win a title on the boys' side? We have a lot of best of the best caliber, in my opinion, this year, just because they're all up there and they're all so close. Great field. What do we got?
I think, looking at the numbers for past winners over the last several years, Loudoun Valley's obviously had historic performances the last 2 seasons. They won 89 points in 2017, 77 points in 2018. But largely in the last 10 years, it's been over 100 points. Just over 100 points gets you a win at NXN. Unfortunately, with the amount of talent that is in the field with Newbury Park and Great Oak, I do think it's going under 100 again. That's probably going to be the trend going forward, actually. You got to go under 100 to win this national meet. I think, looking at it, when you have Newbury that can score in a team race, a 1 and a 2, and all you need is your last 3 guys to come through. And, when it comes to head coach Sean Brose and telling his kids, like, where you have to be, it's making sure you're in that, like, mid-pack in the top 50, and you're picking off guys at the end of the race when it matters. So it's going to be incumbent on those kids to really, really race strong. But if you're Great Oak, I think it's the same thing. All 5 of your guys have to really pick off guys at the end of the race. They can't have down races if you want to win here. Are you looking stuff up?
I'm frantically trying to, because as you said that, I was thinking of one thing. I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be the opposite. You say it's going to be a team that's going to have to score under 100 points.
Yeah.
I think because the field is so strong this year, I think it's going to be closer to what we've seen in like 2016, 2017, 2018. It's going to be, like Bozeman won with 105. It's going to be like just over. Excuse me. American Fork was second with 141. Brentwood was third with 163. That was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's this? I got 2015 pulled up here. It was 114, 163, 181. That was when Great Oak won last.
Right.
Fayetteville Manlius won with 111 points. So almost every year before the previous 2, it's been somebody's been over 100 points to win. And it's been close second with people being in 100 points. And I think right now, I was trying to find really quickly the Great American results and what happened there, or not Great American, Clovis results, and
Well, you can do that. I just think that, looking at Newbury Park, I don't think their 3, 4, 5, 6 guy, even 7 guy, is going to get too bogged down in this field. You got to think overall this feels like 250 runners approximately, and Newbury Park's better than the first third of those teams. So I don't think there's going to be much problem with those guys getting out fast. They've done it all year. Their whole, plan all year is just get out hard and race, toward the front. I think it's going to be really, really important for teams like Corner Canyon not to get out slow and not to get kind of bottled in. Same thing with Loudoun Valley. I think Loudoun Valley is going to be in a good position because they are experienced. These guys have seen this team race before, but once you get on the course, you really have to make sure that you're in a good position and you can pick off guys. Once you get to the 3K mark and there's only 2K left, that's when you start to sense when somebody might be dying in front of you or you might need some points.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It just depends. Because Clovis was 57-65. So I guess more than it going under 100 points, it's going to be it's going to be a very close score. So maybe 2 teams might go under. It's going to be very close. Like Great Oak and Newbury Park might go under, but I think like I don't know. It's gonna be close because if you look at how they scored last time, if you look at Clovis, and again Clovis is like good, but it's not like the top of the top. They're 6, 7, 12, 15, 17, and then they're 7 and their last 2 are 20 and 51. So that was Great Oak. And then Newbury Park was 1, 3, 10, 25, 26, and then 32 and 35, which would definitely. But the thing is that I'm telling you that 1 through 5 split is so big, and with so many guys all if you look at the speed ratings, all right around that 185, 170 something mark, like it's not impossible, but it's that close pack is gonna really, I think, play to Great Oak's strength here. And I think if you're Nico Young, you really have to nobody on any team at Nationals can have a bad day, but I think like if Newbury Park's 4 or 5 have an off day, they're in trouble. They're in deep trouble. As we're like Great Oak, their 4 or 5 might be able to have an off day, and their 7, 8 or 6, 7, can come through, and because they're the same range.
So for comparison here, Loudoun Valley's 4 and 5 last year were 52nd and 63, and with displacement that was 19th and 29. So they had all 5 guys under 30 to get that point score. So I mean, even if you're in like the 60, 70 range, you just can't. You can't, panic. I don't.
No, yeah, you have to
that's
definitely.
The one big thing. You can't panic in this race.
You have to relax and be relaxed. And the other thing is too, it might not just be Newbury Park and Great Oak we're talking about. There's always teams that slide in and run amazing. There's teams that are dark horses and underdogs.
One other funny note: Great Oak last year, as a runner-up, scored 114 points. That's the point total that they won 2015 with. So, I really over under 100 points. What are you taking? Under or over on 100 points?
I'm taking over 100 points.
Okay, I'm going under. What are you going?
I say low 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also this weekend is the final NXN run of Ms. Tuohy. She's had 5 years at NXN. She is on the brink of her 3rd championship in a row. She will be the only female to have ever accomplished this feat. Sarah Baxter did win twice in a row. She lost her 3rd year. She placed 3rd. Do we think that anybody in the future is going to approach this type of dominance ever again? Is anyone going to sort of run at her level in the future?
Not soon, probably.
Yeah.
I never want to say never because
never say never.
Girls see Katelyn Tuohy and at 11 or 12. There have been some dads I've seen in meets actually this year where they're like training their girl that's like 12 years old, and she's like fully like encumbered in this whole sport like at the age of 12. So you see kids at an early age really buy in. So I don't think that like the dominance thing might happen. I just don't think it's happening soon because Katelyn Tuohy, you look at her career, it was just unbelievable. I mean, last year alone, I think was the best high school cross country girl season that you've ever seen. With the speed rating, she had 4 speed ratings over 170. She was also 167, 165, 169. Broke the NXN course record. I mean, she won Gatorade National Athlete of the Year. She was unbelievable. That's the type of season I don't know if you'll replicate again. But other than that, I just it'll be. And I don't know. It's kind of sad because Katelyn Tuohy has been like top of mind for so long, and she's gonna finish out this career. It's like a swan song kind of. She's done so much, but at some point it all has to end. It all has to go forward. She's got to build her future from here on out. She's not gonna stay in high school forever. So, it's kind of seeing this close.
I feel like Katelyn Tuohy's been so top of mind for so long. We almost haven't even really discussed her much this season, just because it's like, oh, Katelyn Tuohy, she's at the top.
Right.
Like, not much else to mention. Moving on, like, what's happening besides that? Like, that in itself just says a lot about what she's done and what she's contributed to the sport.
I think it's hard to describe excellence in a different way so many times.
Right.
You do it once, you do it twice, you do it 3 times, and after that, it becomes hard because this is what you expect out of her, and it's harder for her to surprise you in the things that she's doing. The only thing that I think in recent months that we've even criticized her for is maybe not racing somebody, and that's very just a very minor thing to qualm about. But like those are the small things that I think we're looking for with Katelyn Tuohy. But if you look at it, the entirety of her career, it's just been sensational. Have anything to add?
No? I mean, I agree. I don't.
Yeah.
There's not much to say about this topic. Will go down, in my opinion, as one of the best high school cross country female distance runners ever, already, and that's regardless of what she goes on and does in college or professionally. Her high school resume already speaks for itself. The same, I just remember in New York always hearing about Mary Kane because she was a couple years after I graduated, and her high school resume also just speaks for itself. Like regardless of everything else after, her high school resume was incredible, and Katelyn Tuohy has an incredible high school resume already. So
yeah, there's a technical point to this. Her high school season is over, but from what we were told, she's entered at the USATF National Club Cross Country Championships at Lehigh University in Bethlehem on when is this? December 13th. So that is basically Foot Locker weekend. She's going to cross country championships. So yeah,
we'll see there too. Sticking with the girls, but on the team side, do we think that Summit is going to run away with another title, or do we think that FM is going to sneak up and give them a fight?
I'll just talk about what we heard from the speed rating merge. It looks like Summit should be a clear and above favorite based on the speed ratings. Obviously a strong contender. They've ran well all year, but I just, in my mind, you don't count out FM. Just like the years and decades of history, and that Bill Ayers has them ready to go at the right time for this meet in particular. They always show up, podium contenders every year. Yeah, I mean, that's just a given. Like when you talk about national championships, you talk about NXN, you talk about FM. So they should be in the mix, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them, challenging Summit.
The averages here are closer than you would think. Best speed rating coming off the recent races. Summit's at 136.6. Fayetteville mainly is 135 as a team, so I think it's pretty close. But for me, the NXN race is going to be a battle of matchups between each runner in their lineup. Claire Walters and Fiona Max are their number ones, and they're really, really solid. Fiona's at a 155. I think Claire's at a 161. Those two have to sort of race each other to see who gets the kind of the first placement of the teams. But beyond that, I think the most important matchup is Tegan Knox versus Hannah Kircher. Both of these girls are critical to the point scores of these teams. Tegan's had a great year, but I think Hannah's coming off better success in recent weeks in terms of performances. If Hannah can come in before Tegan, I think not only is it mentality and tone that she sets for Fayetteville Mainlace, but she's kind of just opens the door for Fayetteville to score just that little margin over Summit. So as long as Summit's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 come through the way they've been running, and I do think they'll win. But if Claire and Hannah open it up with a really good performance, I think Fayetteville could take it. But they're going to have a great back end of the race with 5 and 6.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. You have to have a whole team to win the race, and that's what I think we've talked about a lot in various scenarios here. Right. The other thing that's interesting, too, is obviously Summit and Fayetteville, man, they appear to be the favorite, but it is the national championships, and almost anything can happen. There's been crazy incidents, and the course conditions sounds like it's going to be rainy and muddy. It's almost always is Portland.
I don't think that benefits either one of these teams because they're from Bend.
They're both used. Yeah. No, I'm not saying benefits or whatever. I'm just saying conditions can be different. It just things happen. What if somebody slips and falls?
Sure.
Either team.
Sure.
But the other thing you got to count is Naperville North. You put in your notes even though they dropped down a place, looking for its 3rd consecutive podium finish at NXN. I think that's a huge team that could potentially be a dark horse in all of this. They've been there, they've done that, they know what to do. I'm pretty sure they return all the girls from last year's podium team.
No, they graduated 3 actually.
Okay, graduated 3. So they return a good chunk of their team though. And Saratoga Springs also has looked strong against FM all year. Not to mention some of the Northwest teams. So I mean, there's a good, solid, couple teams that could even sneak up in there if something were to happen with either team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on Naperville North. That's a good pick there.
Let's move over to the individual side of things. We can start with the boys. Again, very close field. There's a lot of different dynamics added to this race. It's all come down to this. Who do we think is going to win the boys' race on the individual side? Is Nico too good? Is he going to take it all? Or is there other people that we think are in the mix for this number one for the crown.
It's gonna be a great race.
It's going to be so good.
I'm looking forward to this more than anything, I think.
Me too.
I don't think you can run away with anybody. Like, I don't think Nikki's going to run away. Nico is going to run away from anyone.
No,
Until the final 1K. I think he'll open it up after that, and I think we'll run away at 1K to go. You know, it's a strategic thing. You got to save as much as you can. But if you're saving that energy and you're relying more so on that aerobic, endurance that you have, who has more of it than anyone else in this field? It's Nico. Like, you can't let Nico.
Yeah, but if you're relying on the last 1K and you're relying on foot speed, who has great foot speed? Oh, Cole Sprout does in the mile.
Yeah.
That they're super comparable. I mean, I'm not saying
but in
that
a
Nico's
5K though, it's turning over at with that left.
This is once again a scenario where I think Nico has been the class of the field. He's the guy that everybody's looking for. You could also think that he's like Casey Klinger. Casey Klinger was a 2-time NXN champion. He was also just above the field for a majority of the year. Not quite on. I think Nico is obviously at a level that we haven't seen maybe since Casey Klinger. Or even he's done better because he's run some faster times. If you look at times, Nico is a very, very strong runner. But in a national race like this, again, it's the conditions, the day. Like, let's say he waits until 1K, and there's some guys all around him. Evan Holland is a great runner. Cole Sprout's a great runner. Josh Menther could be up there. Any one of those guys, if they feel slightly better than him,
right?
Like, this is the definition of a championship race. Any one of those guys feels slightly better than him, they're gonna beat him. They could beat him.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a guaranteed thing. I think based on everything we've seen all year, Nico Young is the favorite.
So 2 guys last year were the first guys to go under 15 minutes on this course, Liam Anderson and Cole Hocker. But watching Liam last year, it was very evident that he didn't do he only did as much as he had to up until the moment where he had to make the move. Yeah. And so when you look at the guys, this is why I really like Cole Sprout in this race, because Cole Sprout has always been a front runner his entire life. In most of the races he's in, he just goes out the front. But I think in this race, I think you'll see a little bit different side of him because he knows what's at stake. He knows how he's going to have to win this race. And I think, when it comes down to foot speed, it will play to his advantage in that respect. Part of me thinks Nico's going to get it at 1K. But my heart is telling me Cole Sprout's got so much in the tank that something special is going to happen, and I think he's going to actually get that win. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of different angles you could take, but you could take it's almost like I'll explain it this way: Rudy versus Drago. I'm gonna say it. Nico is Drago, Cole is Rudy, or Rocky. I'm sorry, Rocky. And who wins that battle? Rocky wins.
I
don't know.
Brian doesn't even know what to say to that.
I know.
Did you watch? Have you seen Rocky? Do you even know what I'm talking about?
I haven't either.
I haven't seen Rocky. It's
Rocky.
Rocky
Balboa. Come on, guys.
It's going to be an incredible battle. I think again it comes down to the tactics of the race, how it plays out, who runs a smarter race in a way, and who has it on that day. Again, we've seen Nico have it on that day that he needs to have it all season long.
Yeah.
So there's no way you should doubt him. But I'm just saying, if for some reason he doesn't have it, there's guys right there knocking down the door to come.
Yeah, we're not even mentioning Evan Holland, but he's legit is up there.
Is up there. We haven't really talked about him most of this.
All these guys are going to be in the hunt in the final moments.
Strangio. Again, we're forgetting Strangio. I think he's around that area, and if he can be anywhere within striking distance, he should be able to get after it.
I would say, in my mind, if there's anybody outside of Nico and Cole, it's Holland and Methner, because looking at Illinois performance, looking at that
his Detweiler, not Detweiler, looking at his Detweiler
Yeah.
Park performance, and
they definitely, I think, kind of those times are comparable. I think when you translate them at that level. So I think those 4 guys potentially.
Yep.
Guys, we gotta
watch
one more
Rocky 4 when you go home. Can you please do that? It's an amazing movie, and you'll get the reference.
Can you just send me a clip? Wait, we have to do this on them quick and dirty. Who are our picks for the win? If you had to pick one, you would just have to.
I already said it. I think it's Nico Young. I think you don't.
Who's your top 3?
I can't.
Who's your top 3?
Podium. Lay them out for me.
Nico, Evan, Cole, just in the order they are on the MileSplit 50. That's what I think.
Okay.
I like Cole Sprout. I think he's good, but I think Evan Holland, man, I don't know. There's something there. I just feel like we haven't seen him go full strength yet, and I think he's ready to rip one.
Yeah, I think Evan sneaky. I'm going to stick with my earlier season pick. I'm going to go Cole. I'm going to go Evan. And then I'll go Nico.
I forget who I picked at the beginning of the season. Probably Cole.
Yeah.
I think I picked Cole at the beginning of the season.
All right, Parker, quickly.
I'll start with my third, so I'll leave a big reveal so people will stay tuned for this. Third, I'm going to go Shoppy. Just have a good feeling about the kid.
Okay.
Ooh.
Second, Nico, and number 1, Cole. But I'm not just saying that because me and Mrs. Sprout are BFFs on Twitter. I do really think that Cole has the heart of a lion, and he's gonna do it.
Okay.
So, okay. Let's talk about the girls' race. I know we touched, not really so briefly, but we did touch on Katelyn Tuohy, her final NXN of her career. But do we think that there is anybody else in this race that could potentially challenge Katelyn Tuohy and take the crown from her?
It would be really, really hard. I don't think it's as likely to happen. I think Marlee, the addition of Marlee Starliper in this race is a very good one because she's one of the best runners in the country. I think she'll definitely race. Marlee going under 17 minutes would be a huge win for her. And I think she's closer to Katelyn Tuohy, but I think Katelyn Tuohy wins. But I think it's the battle for second that's going to be really intriguing for me. Starliper, Walters, Thorvaldsen. Yeah.
I think it's a battle for second.
Brooke
I think,
Robber,
I think this race is like Katelyn. Like, not to be mean, this race is Katelyn Tuohy's to lose. Like, if somebody beats her, it's because something happened where she just didn't run right. Maybe she slipped and fell. Whatever happens, I hope that doesn't happen. Whatever happens. But I think that she's, again, one of the girls that we're going to go down in the history books as one of the best runners of all time.
Right.
And I think that Marlee has had an outstanding season. She's definitely looked super strong. And if it were a mile, I might be saying differently. I think Marlee could maybe give her a run for the money there in a track season.
Mm-hmm.
But, you just look at past performances. This is Marlee's first time in Portland. New course, new experiences, and I understand she's from the Northeast. She understands how to run some mud, but this is definitely a different race. And, obviously Foot Locker is a good national championship. This is also a solid, but you're playing with some different conditions here than you are at Foot Locker, and maybe a little different strategies and things. So it'll be interesting. But I think that Katelyn Tuohy's going to take the win.
Okay.
This is a very interesting battle for second and third. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. I mean, the battle for second and third, that's where you really should start talking about, because there's a lot of different girls, I think, that could step up and have big races.
So,
Agreed.
Sydney, one quick just story time here. Sydney Thorvaldsen is from Rawlins, Wyoming, and Rawlins is enamored by Sydney Thorvaldsen because they don't see very many elite runners in that stretch of the country. But they wrote a story about her recently where she's running on her own, in the town by herself in snow-packed, sidewalks and stuff like that. Sydney Thorvaldsen, I think, wants to do something in this race that's special. She's been All-American 2 straight years, 9th as a sophomore, 9th as a freshman, 13th as a sophomore. She's a junior. So, if she goes top 5, I think that's a big win for her.
Yep, and what we love here. We love a good small-town girl story. That really gets us riled up.
Yep.
Okay.
Stories about Thousand Oaks girls.
Maybe it's just me. But last but not least, something we should touch base on the topic of championship season, ultimate championships. What's the strategy here between competing at both NXN and Foot Locker? Is there one?
For the few that do it.
Yes.
For the few that do it.
Yeah, what is you got? 13 athletes total?
Overall.
This year, from what I count, yeah.
Yeah.
Foot Locker West technically is happening on NXN, so nobody at Foot Locker West is going to compete at NXN. So there's only a couple regions that actually are capable of doing this.
Yeah, Midwest,
Midwest,
Heartland.
Yep, and the South. No, Heartland.
Midwest.
Yes.
I
don't know.
Heartland, Midwest, South. Heartland, Midwest, South, and Northwest are the ones that are able to do this. The other ones, the South, Northeast, California, and New York, I guess. No, New York can't. Yeah, so that's it. But
I mean, there's
think,
not really a strategy.
You asked a strategy. I think it's you're going to try to win each meet. That's what you want to do.
Right.
I think
the beauty is if
if you don't run well one weekend, especially that first weekend, you have redemption for the second weekend. But sometimes I feel like you could also show up and run very well at NXN. I don't think this happened too often, but you can run well at NXN and then just kind of like, whatever, and just run like whatever at Foot Locker. But I think, you've seen the opposite where Reed Brown didn't run so well at
the
NXN.
momentum's typically on you.
And then he's like, well, come on, I got to come back. And he ends up winning Foot Locker.
That happened with Drew Bosley last year. He ran NXN with hopes of getting maybe top 5. Mm-hmm. He fell to like, I don't know, 13th, 20th, something like that. And then he came back and he was top 5 at Foot Locker. So, I mean, the Foot Locker is like redemption for athletes that are able to do both. If they don't perform well at the first meet, they come back and they kind of like recalibrate and they're able to go back into like Balboa Park and race their own race. A lot of times that's what happens. I mean, Taylor Ewert last year crushed both meets. She was All-American both. So there's a lot of cases where athletes are just like
podium in both.
Yeah. Really good. So
I think the other interesting thing too is like, how does that Midwest region respond? Because that's like, you're going from your Midwest regional to your Nike Cross Nationals to your Foot Locker Nationals, like 3 high caliber, high class meets in 3 days. Or 3 weekends, not 3 days. 3 weekends.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it's tough. So I mean, you definitely have to be peaked and ready to run in prime shape to get going.
Yeah.
So.
All right. To close, no more cross country. We have our first indoor meets of the season coming up. We have our Magic City Invitational in Birmingham, Alabama, and the DC 1AA High School Open Invitational in Landover, Maryland. And they will both be live on MileSplit this weekend. So make sure you stay tuned for those, in addition to the big championship weekend in the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, and Bryan and I are going to be in San Diego for Foot Locker Nationals. We will be on the road, so we can't be in the studio to do this MileSplit live next week. So we're going to hopefully do it from wherever we're at.
Yeah.
Coffee shop.
On the road edition.
On the road.
On the
beach in San Diego, kicking it by the waves.
Yes.
That's my dream.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it'll be fun.
All right.
Yeah. So stay tuned for coverage of NXN this weekend. We will have a ton of stuff going up on the site as Cory and Bryan, and then 2 other of our guys will be there. And
Their names are Bobby and Logan, by the way.
Well, okay. I was just trying to... Anyway, yeah, they're great. So they'll be contributing to the site as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that, as well as the meets and next week's coverage going into Foot Locker. And we will see you for On the Road edition next week.